Hello, seekers of knowledge. Are you interested in understanding why members of the Church of Jesus Christ love the Book of Mormon? Well, I'm here to help you because I'm reading every page of it with you and providing explanation and insights from a believer. Hi, my name is Sariah Ogilvie, and today is day 9 of our Reading the Book of Mormon from Cover to Cover project, and we are in 1 Nephi chapter 5. Today is an interesting one where there's a marital argument. Sariah, the mom, gets a little feisty, but don't worry, it all turns out great. So stick with me and let's get started. Just a couple more things before we get started. If you are interested in more content like this, then be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss anything. Also, if you're wanting to read along in the Book of Mormon, see the description for links on how to get your own copy. Without any further delay, let's get started with chapter 5. So, in the previous chapter, Laman, Lemuel, Nephi, and Sam had been asked to get the brass plates from Laban, and they were finally able to get those brass plates. The adventure spanned 2 or 3 chapters, and it was quite a dramatic story. And if you're curious about that, of course, go to the playlist, the Book of Mormon playlist, and review those. So chapter 5, this is back at the ranch where Sariah and Lehi are still waiting out in the desert all by themselves, waiting for their sons to return. This is a jump cut to what is going on with them, while meanwhile, the brothers are traveling through the wilderness or the desert or whatever and bringing the brass plates. So we're going to jump cut over to what the parents are up to. The little summary here at the top of the chapter, full of all the spoiler alerts, is Sariah complains against Lehi. Both rejoice over the return of their sons. They offer sacrifices. The plates of brass contain writings of Moses and the prophets. The plates identify Lehi as a descendant of Joseph. Lehi prophesies concerning his seed and the preservation of the plates. About 600 to 592 BC. And just as a reminder, there's just no way for me to put all the background information if you're only wanting to watch this one episode. So you might feel a little disjointed if this is the first episode you're watching, but just stick with me if you enjoy it. And if you're curious, then you can go back and review some of those older episodes to get caught up to speed. All right, verse 1. It came to pass that after we had come down into the wilderness unto our father, behold, he was filled with joy, and also my mother Sariah was exceedingly glad, for she truly had mourned because of us. For she had supposed that we had perished in the wilderness, and she also had complained against my father, telling him that he was a visionary man, saying, Behold, thou hast led us forth from the land of our inheritance, and my sons are no more, and we perish in the wilderness. So while Nephi, Laman, Lemuel, and Sam were traveling in the wilderness, when they arrived, they find out that there'd been family drama. Sariah and Lehi had had a very uncomfortable discussion. Lehi, the prophet, he'd done all kinds of things and his wife hadn't complained. He prophesied the destruction of Jerusalem. They left Jerusalem. She and all of her boys and everything, they left all their riches, went out into the wilderness, and she was okay with all of it. But it was when her 4 sons got sent out on this mission to get the brass plates, and she thinks maybe they've all been killed. That is her line in the sand, where she's just not okay with this. And you can kind of understand that from a mother's perspective. After this manner of language, my mother had complained against my father. And it came to pass that my father spake unto her, saying, I know that I am a visionary man. For if I had not seen the things of God in a vision, I should not have known the goodness of God, but had tarried in Jerusalem and perished with my brethren. So let's just back up a couple verses. So it's interesting that the accusation that Sariah uses against her husband was taking advantage of his greatest strength and greatest weakness in a way. So his greatest strength is being a visionary man. He's a prophet. He receives these revelations from God. And he channels information from heaven and shares it. This is what a prophet does. But his greatest weakness is that he can look foolish. He can look crazy. He can look deluded. He can look long-winded. He can look difficult to live with, because prophets are rarely convenient people. And so this greatest weakness also has its soft underbelly, and she's poking at that right now because her faith is being tested so much. Because the thought that her sons aren't alive, she's done so much and been okay with it, but that's more than she can bear. Now, one of the things that I like about this, because again, the Book of Mormon is not just entertaining stories, and as you'll see later as we get going, that there's areas that are actually not that entertaining at all. They're kind of dry, but we'll still extract goodness from them because there's so much there. But there's more than just stories. There's doctrines and patterns. That is why this book is so beloved, because the stories are great, but if they don't teach us anything, then it's just popcorn entertainment time. It doesn't do anything for us. What we're trying to do is use the Book of Mormon to extract truth and live by that truth. Like, how can we apply this in our life? So a couple of thoughts here that really stand out to me is that everyone has their breaking point. You know, Sariah was very faithful with many things that she had to sacrifice. But when it came to her sons not being safe, that was her breaking point. And we can ask ourselves, what sacrifices come easily when we're serving the Lord? And which ones do we feel like are our sacred cows where we do not want to give those up? So some sacrifices that might come easily for someone is like, hey, I don't mind serving in the church. I really enjoy that. Or for me, it's not difficult to pay tithing and give a certain bit of money to the Lord. You know, but if I felt inspired to move and I really knew that God wanted me to move for some particular reason, I would say, nope, I like my house here. It's too hard or whatever. It doesn't really insert whatever your situation is. There's going to be things that come easy and things that come hard for you. And to recognize that you'll be tested in those areas that are difficult for you. And also that there's that human weakness to, when you're angry, to lash out at someone that you love, and maybe even to turn something good into something bad because you're so mad, you're so emotional. And so this is a good reminder here that if you have felt faith and vision and perspective at one point, that you really need to hold your ground emotionally and not give in to being super pissed off or super, grief-stricken and angry and melt down just because things aren't going your way. Like, try to hold steady. But as you'll see later too, it's just part of life. Like, say it's kind of understandable that Sariah broke down, so it's not like, oh, she shouldn't have done that. It's like, yeah, we should probably try not to do that because in the end, everything worked out okay, and it didn't help that she was complaining. So that's a good lesson for all of us. But another lesson could also be, hey, good people are also imperfect, and that's okay. That's part of the journey. Like Sariah and Lehi, they're great people. And if they struggle, if they have bad days, well, so do the rest of us. And maybe that can let us have a little bit more patience and grace with ourselves if we have a bad day and stub our toe and, swear and whatever, go to bed and say, forget it, this is stupid, things aren't working out. That's part of the human condition. Of course, we want to work with ourselves and try to do better, but also have some grace. It's a normal part of life. So moving on, Lehi is reminding her in verse 4, yes, you're right, I am a visionary man. I did see things in a vision, and because of God's goodness, we are saved from the destruction of Jerusalem. So I love this lesson too, that Lehi, when he was being insulted, he didn't get defensive. He didn't jump right in and say, oh, fancy that you should say this. What have you done for me lately? Or, you believed me before and now you don't. What's the matter? You're a very inconsistent person. He doesn't attack her character. In fact, he kind of turns it. He does a little karate move and evades her gut punch by saying, yeah, you're right, I am a visionary man. So what you're trying to insult me with is actually a compliment. I believe it. I believe in the prophecies that I have, and I'm good with being a visionary man. So he didn't let her gut punch bring him down, which is also a nice lesson, that if someone's insulting you, you can choose not to be offended. You can choose to stand strong in your thoughts and in your convictions and be kind and firm without being mean. Verse 5, but behold, I have obtained a land of promise. Lehi's continuing to tell Sariah, hey, I'm good with how things are going. I have faith in God. Behold, I have obtained a land of promise, in the which things I do rejoice. Yea, I know that the Lord will deliver my sons out of the hands of Laban and bring them down again unto us in the wilderness. So verse 5, he's affirming that even though it's been a long time since they've seen the boys, he is totally faith-filled that they will return. And he uses this phrase, I have obtained a land of promise, when really the land of promise they're going to eventually obtain is over the ocean in the Americas. So I think it's interesting how he says, I have obtained a land of promise. If that's just prophet speak, which prophets often do this, they speak as if the future is now or what. But I like to think of it that way. That kind of makes sense. Verse 6, and after this manner of language did my father Lehi comfort my mother Sariah concerning us while we journeyed in the wilderness up to the land of Jerusalem to obtain the record of the Jews. So his not being offended and his patiently explaining, yes, these things that you're saying are true, but they're actually good and everything's still okay. That was comforting. He chose to be a comfort rather than get offended. Verse 7, when we had returned to the tent of my father, behold, their joy was full, and my mother was comforted. Of course, you can certainly understand that. And she spake, saying, now I know of a surety that the Lord hath commanded my husband to flee into the wilderness. Yea, and I also know of a surety that the Lord hath protected my sons and delivered them out of the hands of Laban, and given them power whereby they could accomplish the thing which the Lord hath commanded them. And after this manner of language did she speak. And it came to pass they did rejoice exceedingly, and offered burnt sacrifice and burnt offerings unto the Lord. And they gave thanks unto the God of Israel. So again, these are adherent Jews that are living the law of Moses. So they're grateful. And of course, they offer a burnt offering and sacrifices to show that gratitude to God. And I love too how Sariah, she really says, I get it now. I rejoice. I see what God's doing. I'm full of gratitude, and my faith has been bolstered. And this is not only, I think it's just a pattern that we can see that God's going to stretch us in the areas that we're already strong. He's, we've already kind of conquered that, but in areas where we're weak, we'll get a chance to stretch. We'll get a chance to say, oh, this is too hard. This is too hard. But hang in there, because we will learn and we will overcome and gain even a stronger testimony. This is kind of the way we see it anyway in the LDS viewpoint. After they had given thanks unto the Lord, verse 10 here, my father Lehi took the records which were engraven upon the plates of brass, and he did search them from the beginning. And he beheld that they did contain the 5 books of Moses, which gave an account of the creation of the world, and also of Adam and Eve, who were our first parents, and also a record of the Jews from the beginning, even down to the commencement of the reign of Zedekiah, king of Judah, and also the prophecies of all the holy prophets from the beginning, even down to the commencement of the reign of Zedekiah, and also many prophecies which have been spoken by the mouth of Jeremiah. And it came to pass that my father Lehi also found upon the plates of brass a genealogy of his fathers, wherefore he knew that he was a descendant of Joseph, yea, even that Joseph, who was the son of Jacob, who was sold into slavery, who was preserved by the hand of the Lord, that he might preserve his father Jacob and all his household from perishing from famine. So as Lehi reads these brass plates, he's realizing they've got the first 5 books of Moses, and also teachings from the prophets, and also the genealogy that proves he was a descendant of Joseph, who descended from Abraham, then Isaac, then Jacob, then Joseph, right? And Joseph's the one that preserved the family from famine. And they were also led out of captivity out of the land of Egypt by that same God who did preserve them. So that would have been Moses, right? So he sees that he's a descendant of Joseph, and then his people come out of Egypt into the wilderness and eventually the promised land. Thus my father Lehi did discover the genealogy of his fathers. And Laban also was a descendant of Joseph, wherefore he and his fathers had kept the records. So Laban, the guy that they got the records from, he was the record holder in this same genealogical line. And of course, Lehi's related to him, so he's in that same family. And I just want to point out again that we, as Latter-day Saints, we have a really strong love and a sense of connection to the Jews. We really respect our common heritage, what they've done for us, and honor the prophets of the Old Testament. All right, verse 17. Now, when my father saw all these things, he was filled with the Spirit and began to prophesy concerning his seed, that these plates of brass should go forth unto all nations, kindreds, tongues, and people who were of his seed. Wherefore he said that these plates of brass should never perish, neither should they be dimmed any more by time. And he prophesied many things concerning his seed. And it came to pass that thus far I and my father had kept the commandments wherewith the Lord had commanded us. So up till now, everything the Lord had told Lehi to do, he had done it. He prophesied to the inhabitants of Jerusalem. He left when they said to leave. They went back and got the brass plates, and that Nephi had been a support this whole time after the incident a few chapters ago where he prayed asking God to help him know if what his father was teaching was true and he should follow, and he got that confirmation. Yes, you should follow your prophet's teachings. They are of God. We had obtained the records which the Lord had commanded us, and searched them, and found that they were desirable, yea, even of great worth unto us, inasmuch as we could preserve the commandments of the Lord unto our children. Wherefore it was wisdom in the Lord that we should carry them with us as we journeyed in the wilderness towards the land of promise. So 2 little observations there. One is that Nephi starts using the word we when he's talking about what his father is enacting and what Nephi is helping him enact. So Nephi is the third born son, and naturally the older brothers would normally be the leader, but because of Nephi's support and alliance with Nephi and Nephi's goals in following God, they have formed quite an alliance between the two of them, that they are trying to lead the family. That Lehi is the patriarch and the father, but Nephi is already taking on this role of spiritual second in command, in a way, is what it appears to me anyhow. And another thing that's really, really pointed out here is just the critical nature of Scripture, that it is desirable and of great worth to preserve these commandments of God. It's wisdom in the Lord to carry them with us. So this whole chapter really speaks to the idea of the critical nature of Scripture. There's so many things we can know, but the most important things are preserved in Scripture, in these stories that hold doctrines and truths for us. So as Latter-day Saints, we are very, very clear that daily Scripture study is incredibly important. It doesn't mean that all of us do that perfectly every day. In fact, Latter-day Saints are just normal people that are struggling against the difficulties of life, just like everybody else. And so, we don't always execute that perfectly. But as part of every day reading Scripture, bringing that wisdom of the ages, and also opening yourself to God, saying, God, I'm here and I'm listening. I'm trying to set aside a part of my day to consecrate my heart to you and to be open to what you're trying to teach me. That's very, very important to us. So I want to end with one little thought, and I will post it in the show notes below. But this is just something that's been on my mind a little bit about why I'm doing this channel, is to, as I've said before, many other religions I respect and love. I've learned so much from them, and I feel like my faith has so much to offer as well. And I want others who are open-hearted and honest, not mean, but like kind people who are genuinely willing to learn, to understand more about our faith as Latter-day Saints, that it's good and it has so much to contribute. This is a quote I came across this morning from Joseph Smith, and I'll read it to you and I'll explain why I am sharing it. This is given in 1831, so it was just a year after our church was organized, and Joseph Smith makes this statement while the Book of Mormon was in printing. It was in being printed at Grandin's printing press at that very moment. Joseph Smith said, false reports, lies, and foolish stories were published in the newspaper and circulated in every direction to prevent people from investigating the work and embracing the faith. So many rumors, lies, and unkind things were being said just to try to stop people from looking at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And that has continued on forever. We have we definitely have people that respect us, but we have always been hated by some, and there's always been at least a good group of people that would love to see us go down in flames, and has had a lot of hatred. So that hasn't changed. It's been there from the very beginning. In fact, the very first baptisms that were ever performed in the church, there was a mob waiting there, breaking down the dam that was built to create a place to do the baptisms. And that has always been the case for us. If it's not one thing, it's another, where people are trying to undermine our movement and what we're trying to accomplish. But I am here sharing that our beliefs are good. They add to healthy communities and healthy societies. And I, again, really hope that you continue to take the time to understand us so that we can have more mutual understanding and love in the world. If there's anything that you agree with or like, please leave a comment, and I hope to see you again next time. Take care.